Good day. It's January 20th, 2025. Today, Donald Trump returns to the White House for his second presidency. The nation also celebrates as a government holiday the commemoration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the civil rights icon, whose birthday is January 15. I'm Joe Buban. Welcome to The Pulse.
And I'm Marivelle Villanueva. Welcome to The Pulse.
President Donald Trump was sworn in today as the 47th President of the United States and made history also as the only U.S. president to hold office as a convicted felon. Last week, the United States Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, rejected Donald Trump's motion to vacate the judgment based on presidential immunity. Chief Justice John Roberts and Trump appointee Justice Amy Coney Barrett joined the three liberals of the court, Justice Elena Kagan, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, and Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, to form the majority that denied Donald Trump's petition. That allowed New York Judge Juan Merchan to sentence Trump in the 32-count criminal conviction in the State Court of New York. Donald Trump, who was tried by a state jury, was convicted of 34 counts of criminal fraud in Manhattan, New York, in May 30, 2024. He was prosecuted by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg before Judge Juan Merchan, but sentencing was delayed because of appeals and the general election that was approaching. Judge Merchan purposely allowed the postponement of the sentencing so as not to interfere with a federal election. During those period, Trump's legal team also filed emergency motions with the U.S. Court of Appeals and ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court, which rejected his argument on January 9th, and Trump was sentenced on January 10th. President Trump is coming into his second presidency with campaign promises such as mass deportation, tariffs imposition on two of our important U.S. trading partners, Mexico and Canada, and the lowering prices of goods. But economists said that imposing tariffs will just create inflation. Prices are going to increase as importers of the products will end up paying for the tariffs and eventually pass it on to the consumers. Tariffs is the best factor of price increase of any consumer goods. In simple terms, if an avocado from Mexico is priced at supermarket for $3 per pound, the supermarket will adjust the price to $3.75 per pound to make up for the tariff that the importer imposed on the price. In essence, it is you, us, the consumers, who will pay for it. The president is also infuriating our NATO allies by talking publicly about taking over Greenland, which is territory of Denmark, and making Canada the 51st state of the Union and forcibly taking the Panama Canal. The MAGA movement are also at war with each other over the issue of appointments and personalities close to the center of power in the second Trump presidency. Steve Bannon, a Trump supporter and a MAGA prime mover, through his blogcast, had last week promised his audience that he is going to run out Elon Musk out of the White House before Trump is sworn into office. Trump's nominees for cabinet positions are facing uphill battle during questioning in the U.S. Senate confirmation hearing. Pete Hegseth, a Fox News commentator who is nominee for Defense Secretary, has been called out by Democratic committee members in the Senate as unqualified and had paid settlement money in a sexual assault allegation. Pam Bondi, who is nominee to head the U.S. Justice Department, is also not doing well in the hearing so far. It is likely that Trump's nominee, who could not be confirmed on the normal process, will be shoved in by the president as a recess appointment. Recess appointment is when the president appoints a cabinet member while the Senate is in recess. The next Senate recess will be during the Holy Week, leading to Passover and Good Friday. Trump could use this recess period to shove in problematic appointees into office.
The death toll from last week's wildfires in Southern California has risen to 25. 3 separate fires, each equally devastating, have wreaked havoc across the region. The Pacific Palisades fire destroyed numerous multi-million-dollar homes, primarily belonging to middle to upper-class families. Many of these homes are unlikely to be rebuilt due to soaring costs, as insurance companies are expected to pay only an average of $3 million per claim. The Eden Fire, which has burned more than 10,000 acres in the Pasadena-Altadena area, is still raging. This fire has devastated Altadena, home to many middle-class Black families, reducing multi-generational homes to ashes. The blaze continues to spread up to the mountainsides, threatening additional communities. Meanwhile, the Hearst Fire has charred over 23,000 acres in the Silmar-San Fernando area, further straining firefighting resources. Combined, the 3 fires have burned 35,000 acres and destroyed more than 2,000 buildings. Dry and windy conditions, fueled by relentless Santa Ana winds, have placed Los Angeles County on high fire alert. Some communities have experienced power outages as a precaution against the sparks from downed power lines, which could ignite new fires. Firefighting personnel and resources are stretched thin as crews battled multiple blazes. Reinforcements from other counties and CAL FIRE have been deployed, but the situation remains dire, with firefighters facing increasing challenges on all fronts. Philam TV stands in solidarity with the Southern California community, saluting our tireless and selfless firefighters. We extend our prayers to all those affected by these devastating wildfires.
President Biden's administration was able to broker a ceasefire deal for Gaza between Israel and Hamas. Anthony Blinken, the outgoing U.S. Secretary of State, was able to broker a ceasefire for Gaza, which has been under siege by Israel for more than a year, and had resulted in more than 1.9 million people who are internally displaced. 80% of them live in makeshift shelters where basic needs like food and water are difficult to find. In a press conference Wednesday last week, President Biden, with Secretary Blinken on the side, said that it will halt the fighting in Gaza, surge much-needed humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians, and reunite hostages with their families. The Hamas-Israeli deal was brokered by Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani and U.S. negotiating team led by Secretary Blinken. The Gaza ceasefire took effect yesterday after being approved by the Israeli parliament. Almost the entire population are now internally displaced in Gaza, Israel, according to the UNRWA, the main UN agency for Palestinian refugees. There are also no more buildings in the Palestinian areas that has not been bombed by Israel, reducing the place into rubbles and utter destruction. And the situation only got worse month after month when international relief organizations could not bring in basic supplies because they are being prevented by Israeli defense forces from letting trucks go into refugee camps, also killing a few dozen of relief workers during the bombings of refugee help stations. The ceasefire deal ends the 15 months of the Gaza siege, where most of the dead are children. The UN Secretary General had described Gaza as a graveyard for children. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we will tell you about President Biden's farewell speech. Please stay tuned.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
ladies in the house. After you've gone and left me crying, after you've gone, there's no denying.
Mga kababayan! Welcome back to Chika Chika Today. Who is this mystery woman that Maynila's Principe of Pop seems to be smitten with?
Can't I just say, I like you?
What are your intentions with my mother, sir?
You must be Miguel.
Oh, Sin City sweethearts!
You break her heart. I'll break your pretty K-pop face.
I don't want him to think that I'm trying to be his dad.
Is this the real deal? Will she be the inspiration for a new love song? Or quite possibly another one of Gabriel's heartbreak hits? We will keep you posted on any updates as this story unfolds.
Made to Shine, coming soon. Presented by Philam TV Network. Written and directed by Giovanni Espiritu.
Executive produced by Sam Buban and Esmeralda Padilla-Gould.
Welcome back to The Pulse. Last week, President Biden delivered his farewell address to the American people, marking the conclusion of his 4 years as president and an incredible 50 years of public service. Throughout his career, Biden has served as a legislator, vice president, and finally, president. In his speech, he reflected on the accomplishments of his administration.
My fellow Americans, I'm speaking to you tonight from the Oval Office. Before I begin, let me speak to important news from earlier today. After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, by my administration, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas, the elements of which I laid out in great detail in May of this year. This plan was developed and negotiated by my team, and will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans. This will be my final address to you from the American people from the Oval Office, from this desk as president. And I've been thinking a lot about who we are, and maybe more importantly, who we should be. Long ago in New York Harbor, an ironworker installed beam after beam, day after day. He was joined by steel workers, stonemasons, engineers. They built not just a single structure, but a beacon of freedom. The very idea of America was so big, we felt the entire world needed to see. The Statue of Liberty, a gift from France after our Civil War. Like the very idea of America, it was built not by one person, but by many people, from every background and from around the world. Like America, the Statue of Liberty is not standing still. Her foot literally steps forward atop a broken chain of human bondage. She's on the march, and she literally moves. She was built to sway back and forth to withstand the fury of stormy weather, to stand the test of time because storms are always coming. She sways a few inches, but she never falls into the current below. An engineering marvel. The Statue of Liberty is also an enduring symbol of the soul of our nation. A soul shaped by forces that bring us together and by forces that pull us apart. And yet through good times and tough times, we've withstood it all. A nation of pioneers and explorers, of dreamers and doers, of ancestors native to this land, of ancestors who came by force, a nation of immigrants who came to build a better life, a nation holding the torch of the most powerful idea ever in the history of the world, that all of us are created equal, that all of us deserve to be treated with dignity, justice, and fairness, that democracy must defend and be defined and be imposed, moved in every way possible.
The outgoing president also expressed concern about the growing influence of technology industry and the threat it poses to democracy. He highlighted the troubling trend of internet and social media platform prioritizing profit over truth. Here's President Biden on this issue.
I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable to protect our children, our families, and our very democracy from the abuse of power. Meanwhile, artificial intelligence is the most consequential technology of our time, perhaps of all time. Nothing offers more profound possibilities and risks for our economy and our security, our society, for humanity. But unless safeguards are in place, AI could spawn new threats to our rights, our way of life, to our privacy, how we work and how we protect our nation. We must make sure AI is safe and trustworthy and good for all humankind.
Finally, he thanked the American people for coming together to achieve progress as a nation dedicated to democracy.
All of us are created equal, that all of us deserve to be treated with dignity, justice, and fairness, that democracy must defend and be defined and be imposed, moved in every way possible. Our rights, our freedoms, our dreams. But we know the idea of America, our institution, our people, our values that uphold it are constantly being tested. Ongoing debates about power and the exercise of power, but whether we lead by the example of our power or the power of our example, whether we show the courage to stand up to the abuse of power or we yield to it. After 50 years at the center of all of this, I know that believing in the idea of America means respecting the institutions that govern a free society, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, a free and independent press, institutions that are rooted, they just might not reflect the timeless words, but they echo the words of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Rooted in the timeless words of the Constitution, we the people. Our system of separation of powers, checks and balances, it may not be perfect, but it's maintained our democracy for nearly 250 years, longer than any other nation in history that's ever tried such a bold experiment. In the past 4 years, our democracy has held strong, and every day I've kept my commitment to be president for all Americans.
President Biden, on behalf of the nation, thank you and your family for your remarkable 50 years of service to the country we all cherish.
Such a true statesman and the patriot he is. Thank you, Mr. President Biden. News from Capitol Hill, Speaker Mike Johnson has removed from the chairmanship of the House Intelligence Committee Republican Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio. Congressman Turner was vocal in his support for assistance to Ukraine. The Speaker said that Chairman Turner's position on Ukraine is at odds with that of President Donald Trump. Trump has been telling audience during his campaign that he will end the war in Ukraine in day one of his presidency. A promise he seems to be walking back from, and that such is not doable on day one. The removal of Congressman Turner from the powerful House Intelligence Committee is seen by fellow Republicans and Democrats alike as a move to muscle the Intelligence Committee's possible opposition to Tulsi Gabbard as Director for National Intelligence. Many in Washington believes that Gabbard is compromised as a possible asset of Russia.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., President Trump's nominee for Secretary of Health and Human Services, a department overseeing critical programs like Medicare and Medicaid, may face serious legal trouble. An election watchdog group has filed a complaint alleging that Kennedy committed voter fraud in New York. A court has already ruled that he is not a resident of the state, raising questions about the legitimacy of his vote there. This accusation of felony voter fraud is expected to be a focal point during his Senate confirmation hearings for the highly significant cabinet role. Adding to the controversy, Kennedy's anti-vaccine stance during the COVID-19 pandemic has made him a divisive figure. The backlash intensified after his nomination when he stated that he would push the FDA to ban the polio vaccine, a comment widely condemned by the medical community and lawmakers. The polio vaccine, known for its high efficacy, has saved millions of children worldwide from the devastating effects of the virus. We'll take a quick commercial break. Please stay with us.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
All the ladies in the house. After you've gone and left me crying. After you've gone, there's no denying.
Mga kababayan! Welcome back to Chika Chika Today. Who is this mystery woman that Maynila's Principe of Pop seems to be smitten with?
Can't I just say, I like you?
What are your intentions with my mother, sir?
You must be Miguel.
Oh, Sin City sweethearts!
You break her heart, I'll break your pretty K-pop face.
I don't want him to think that I'm trying to be his dad.
Is this the real deal? Will she be the inspiration for a new love song? Or quite possibly another one of Gabriel's heartbreak hits? We will keep you posted on any updates as this story unfolds.
Made to Shine, coming soon. Presented by Philam TV Network. Written and directed by Giovanni Espiritu.
Executive produced by Sam Buban and Esmeralda Padilla-Gould.
Welcome back to The Pulse. The impeached president of South Korea, Yoon Suk Yeol, who attempted to place the country under martial law, has now been arrested by the police with investigators from the Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials, CIO for short, after a week-long showdown between the police after soldiers and presidential security detail refused to allow the police and investigators to enter the presidential compound. Since his arrest on Wednesday last week, Yoon Suk Yeol refused to cooperate with investigators. He was placed in a solitary confinement, but the government need another warrant to detain him for more than 48 hours. The sitting president, who had been impeached, is the first time such action has been done in South Korea. Yoon is wanted for questioning in multiple criminal investigations related to his martial law decree last month, including accusations of leading an insurrection. Such crime is punishable by life imprisonment or even the death penalty. Yoon has been holed up in the fortified presidential compound, refusing to come out for questioning or appear at his trial after being impeached. He finally left the compound in a motorcade with police and CIO investigators, but refused to talk to investigators.
In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro was sworn in before Parliament for a third six-year term following a highly contested election that his opponents and much of the international community claim he lost. During the ceremony, the 62-year-old Maduro pledged to make the next 6 years a period of peace. However, the controversy surrounding his leadership continues to escalate. The United States announced it has increased its reward to $25 million for information leading to Maduro's arrest and conviction. In 2020, the U.S. Department of Justice charged him with narco-terrorism. Similarly, the United Kingdom has offered rewards of £15 million each for the arrest or conviction of 2 top Venezuelan officials, Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello and Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino. Meanwhile, the European Union has imposed sanctions on 15 Venezuelan officials, and Canada has sanctioned Venezuela over what it calls the erosion of democratic processes and values under Maduro's rule. Maduro and his government have repeatedly denied the allegations made by Western nations and opposition leaders, dismissing them as politically motivated attacks.
We will leave it at that. Please join us again next week here at The Pulse. I'm Joe Buban. Thank you for watching.
And I'm Marivelle Villanueva. Thank you for watching, and God bless your week.